So now we're going to do the starting and finishing knots. Just going to have a look at our sample here. So I've done 6 lines of knots, so it's very important to practice this over and over, because if you can't do a very good knot, then all of your beadwork will fall out. So it's one of those crucial things that requires a little bit of practice just to make sure that they're very secure. So we're going to start off by doing them in the fil à gante, and then we'll have a go at doing it in the metallic and the rayon thread. So we're going to start the same way as we did before, so just stretch out the thread between your fingers like so, place that underneath the fabric, and then you're just going to lift the thread through the fabric, and then what you can do is you can pin that in position like we did over here, or it's actually more efficient if you can use your little finger to hold that into position. So first of all, I'll show you the knot much larger, and then I'll make it smaller afterwards, so just so that you can have an idea of the steps that are involved. So the knot is made up of 3 steps. It's forwards, backwards, forwards. It's kind of like doing a back tack on a sewing machine. So the first step, as I said, I'll do it a little bit larger so you can see. Plunge the hook forwards. Then you're going to wrap the thread 1.5, rotate, lift. Now you're going to do your back tack, so backwards, 1.5, rotate and lift. And then now you're going to go forwards again. Plunge, 1.5, rotate and lift. Now that would be a starting knot. I'm going to make it a lot smaller now. So placing my little finger on the tail end of the thread so it's out of the way. So holding that with a little bit of tension. So first step forwards is plunge the hook 1 millimeter forwards. You don't want to go through the same hole. Thread starts from behind the hook. Wrap 1.5 times. Rotate the hook, pushing away, lifting through. Now you're going to do your back tack, so 1 millimeter backwards, wrap 1.5 times, rotate, pushing towards you, lifting through, and now we're going to go forwards again. So 1 millimeter forwards, wrap 1.5, rotate and lift. Reset clockwise. Normal chain stitch. Okay, so the finishing knot. Forwards 1 millimeter. Thread goes round 1.5. Rotate to 6 o'clock. Pushing away, lifting through. Don't forget to do a back tack, so plunge through the fabric. So you can do it through the chain stitch or just next to the chain stitch. Thread comes from behind the hook, remember. 1.5. Rotate, pushing towards you now, lifting through. Final step forwards, plunge, 1.5, rotate and lift. Make it nice and long. Just going to trim that on the loop, like so. Now when you're doing Tambour embroidery, you're actually working on the right side of the fabric. So these little tail ends, they need to go to the back. And the way that we do that is we bring the hook through the fabric, and then we're going to catch that round on the hook, so make sure it latches on. Push on the back of the hook to bring it through. And we're going to secure those afterwards, so I'll show you how to do that. So bring the hook through the fabric, catch it round the front, latch it on, push on the back of the hook to bring it through. Now I'm just going to put a little pin to keep those little strands out the way. So I'm just going to twist those and then pin those here. And then if you can do that for this one here and the next one, it's also good to try and do it in a different direction. So I'm going to show you how to do it in the metallic and the rayon thread for the next one. So just take your metallic thread and then we're going to go from right to left. So if you're left-handed, it's easiest to start from the left, so go left to right. And then we're going to bring it through the fabric, like we did before, holding that in position. And then we're going to do 3 steps, so forward 1 millimeter, 1.5, rotate and lift, back tack, 1 millimeter. Make sure you're going anti-clockwise. Everything goes in the same direction. Reset clockwise. So now we're going to do some chain stitch. And it's really good just to experiment with different threads because it will feel very different. So just going to continue that line. So we're coming up to the finishing knot, so forwards, 1.5, rotate, lift, back tack, and then forwards again. Make a nice long loop, trim that off there. And then let's just tuck those under so they're out the way. And then we're going to do the rayon thread as well. So this is a bit more of a challenger because it does have a habit of snagging, but it looks beautiful when you work with it with the Tambour embroidery. So we're just going to do that again from here. So when you're working with this thread, it's actually really good to make sure that you're really pushing on the back of the hook before you lift it through. So make sure that you're really aware that you're pushing on the back of the hook to lift it through. That will really stop you from snagging any of the fibres. Because it doesn't have a wax coating, it's obviously quite different from the couture beading thread. But it does give a beautiful finish. So, finishing knot, remember, forwards 1 millimeter, facing the direction that we want to go. So we're not going to reset, we're going to plunge backwards. So plunge, wrap 1.5, rotate, lift, and then we're going to do the final step forwards, 1.5, rotate and lift. Make that nice and long. And then just going to cut on the loop here. And then we're going to bring those to the back. So literally just plunge the hook through, catch it on, slide it to the back of the fabric. And I'm going to show you how to finish those on the other side. So now I flip the frame onto the wrong side, so the wrong side is facing upwards, and we've got our little tail ends here that we're going to secure on the back. So only do this when you have 6 of them done. As I said, it's very important that you make sure you fully understand this stitch. So what we're going to do is just secure these at the back, and the way we do that is we slide the hook through the previous chain stitch. We're going to catch the thread on the hook, like so, And then you want to move the hook away from you so it's lying flat against the fabric. Bring it through the fabric to create a loop. Push through the loop so the thread goes to the back. Catch the tail end on the hook. And again, you want to slide that away from you to bring it through the loop. So this is actually a crochet stitch, so it may look familiar to some of you. And you want to do that 3 times. That will make sure it's all nice and secure. And ideally you want to try and go through the same chain stitch. Okay, so just going to do that one here as well. Through the previous chain stitch, latch it on to slide it through, create a loop, push it to the back, catch the tail end, move the hook away from you and bring it through the loop. 2 more times. Like so. Great. And then what you want to do is you just want to trim those off afterwards. So you want to make sure that that thread is simply 5 millimeters away. So just cut those all off to finish. And that will make them nice and secure. Brilliant. So now we've done the basic chain stitch in the fil à gante, the metallic and the rayon thread. You will have also completed the starting and finishing knot in a variety of threads. So now we're ready to move on to our first mini project, which is the filigree design.